Hey guys, K-Chana Master here. Now, it's been a couple years since I uploaded my first SSB6 roster. I uploaded that video at the beginning of 2023, and I did that more for fun, knowing that the next Smash game would be a couple years away at the time that I recorded that video. But now with the reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2, the official reveal, in light of that, there's been a lot of speculation about a new Smash Bros. Game being revealed soon, possibly during the April 2nd Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. Now, Sakurai has mentioned that he is working on a new game, and although we don't know what that new game is, it most likely is a new Smash Bros. Game. I don't know what else he could be working on. Maybe a new Kid Icarus game, maybe something completely new, brand new IP. But it's probably Smash. Most likely Smash. There's not a lot of changes from my last roster, as you'll see here with the base roster. I only have a couple changes. I'd figure I'd share it with you anyway ahead of the April 2nd Direct. It'll be interesting to see if Smash 6 is actually announced, but here we go, let's get into it. Now, as a disclaimer, this roster is based purely on my opinion and on how I would create the roster, and is not any more valid than how someone else would go about creating the roster. I am not Masahiro Sakurai, and I don't know how he will go about selecting characters in SSB6, assuming he returns for it if and when it is developed. So what I'm going for, this roster is simply for a new game. It's not a reboot, it's not Ultimate Deluxe, it's like what we saw in the transition from Melee to Brawl, and for Brawl to SSB4. I'm keeping roster cuts to a minimum, and am adding a reasonable amount of newcomers. When I pick characters, I'm trying to find a balance between what I personally want versus what I think is realistic to expect. Examples of personal ones would be the size of the roster, all third-party characters returning at launch, certain character choices such as Lyn, for example, it's more of a personal choice. And then as far as what I think is realistic, obviously the return of Echo Fighters. Me personally, I would like for every character to be unique, but I also realize that Echo Fighters are not going anywhere. To expect them to be cut altogether is not realistic. As well as Alear. Alear, I do not particularly care for Alear as a character, but Alear is, at the time of this recording, is the newest Fire Emblem main protagonist, so I think Alear is realistic to expect, but I do not want them as a playable character. Once again, I have a total of 100 characters, 82 veterans, 18 newcomers. Now, the roster you're seeing here is just the base roster made without DLC in mind. However, I do have a short list for DLC characters, as well as a roster that includes all the DLC characters, which I'll go over later in the video. My criteria for newcomers, I'm looking for characters who are iconic, popular characters, newer characters, relevant characters, characters with potential to be unique, that brings something new to the table, as well as are they feasible as a playable character. Now, first, going over the characters I cut from the previous roster, I cut Captain Toad and Dixie Kong. Captain Toad, I cut him in favor of Waluigi. Although Toad has more legacy within the Mario series, I feel like Waluigi is much more wanted by the fan base, and I think he has a lot more potential for an interesting moveset. I don't think Waluigi would play like any character we've seen in Smash Bros. So far. As for Toad, although I like Toad, in most of Toad's games, he's really not that much different from Mario. I understand Captain Toad has his own game, but I don't feel like he really brings as much unique to the table. The other character I cut, Dixie Kong, I cut her to make room for Octoling. Admittedly, I added Dixie Kong originally to fill the roster, and although I would still love to see her become playable in Smash, it just isn't as much a priority for me to keep on this roster. Going over the newcomers once again, Waluigi, he's popular, he's relevant, has a lot of potential for a wacky, interesting moveset. He might just be the most wanted first-party character that hasn't been added yet. A lot of people are clamoring for Waluigi to be in the game. He's been this meme of he keeps missing his chance to make it into Smash Brothers. And maybe, I think this is finally the time to add him. Paper Mario, popular, relevant, highly requested, high moveset potential. We've been getting at least one new Paper Mario game every generation. We just had the Thousand Year Door remastered on Nintendo Switch. We'll see, we probably will get another Paper Mario game for Nintendo Switch 2. Just be an awesome character to play as, and he's not just Paper Mario actually is not the same Mario from the main series, as confirmed in Mario Luigi Paper Jam. Paper Mario universe is a separate alternate universe from the main Mario universe. Now getting into the Zelda series, once again, we need a new, unique Zelda newcomer that is not just a different version of Link, Zelda, or Ganondorf. I went on a big rant in my last video. I'm not going to go on the same lengthy rant this time. The first character, Tetra, while she is another version of Zelda, she's popular, she's iconic, a lot of moveset potential like we saw in Hyrule Warriors. I think we could base a lot, give her a pirate moveset based on that, using that as a basis. My most wanted Zelda newcomer, Impa, popular, highly requested. She's been included in many recent mainline Zelda games as well as spin-offs, such as in Skyward Sword, Hyrule Warriors, Zelda Breath of the Wild, although that was an older version of her that appeared. Impa is by far the most recurring Zelda character that is not part of the Triforce trio, and my most wanted Zelda newcomer. I think she deserves it the most. And Skull Kid, iconic, highly requested, a lot of moveset potential. He's also been included in a lot of recent spin-offs over other notable Zelda characters. He was included in Cadence of Hyrule as a playable character. Skull Kid with the Majora's Mask is very iconic, and I think he's the next most recurring Zelda character aside from Impa. As for the Splatoon series, previously I didn't include a second Splatoon character, but this time I have included Octoling. A lot of people have suggested Octoling as an Echo Fighter for Inkling. Now, I was a little hesitant about Octoling, but thanks to the Splatoon 3 Side Order DLC, that solidified for me that we gotta have Octoling. Splatoon has only grown in popularity since the last Smash game. We had both Splatoon 2 and 3 on Nintendo Switch. We probably will get more Splatoon games on Nintendo Switch 2. And the Octoling has been highly requested. And at this point, it just only makes sense for Splatoon to have a second character. And Octolings have had 2 DLC expansions dedicated to them. Octoling on my roster is a fully fledged newcomer who primarily wields the Order Dualies from the Side Order DLC and would also use a number of weapons that Inkling doesn't already use in Smash Ultimate, so definitely a lot of potential. Going over the Metroid series, Silex, in my last video from 2 years ago, Silex was a bit of a dark horse pick and a personal pick for me, has been a personal pick for me for years. Going back to the SSB4 days, but Silex was recently revealed to be returning in Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, so Silex is relevant again and has a lot of moveset potential. So not only is Silex a personal pick for me, Silex is actually, I think, pretty likely now. Kirby series, Bandana D, recurring, relevant. I think he's the most likely of all the newcomers on this roster to appear in the game. Bandana Waddle Dee has appeared in almost every Kirby game since Return to Dreamland as a 4th playable character for co-op and or multiplayer, such as in Kirby Star Allies. Bandana D was the 4th playable character. Bandana D was playable in Kirby Fighters 2, I think it's called, was prominently featured in Kirby and the Forgotten Land. So Bandana Waddle Dee, if we're going to have a 4th Kirby character, I think Bandana D makes the most sense. Xenoblade Chronicles, I still have Mio, one of the 2 main protagonists of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, who I've included because I think she has more moveset potential with Noah. She wields 2 rings, which is something we haven't seen before. Now, at the time of this recording, Xenoblade Chronicles X Remastered has been revealed for Nintendo Switch 1, and some people are saying maybe that the character from Xenoblade Chronicles X should be added. I disagree. I don't think a re-release overwrites the newest release, especially considering Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is only a 2-year-old game at this point. It's still definitely relevant. So I still have Mio on my roster. For Fire Emblem, I went the route of adding both the most recent main protagonist as well as a legacy character. First, going over Alear, the main protagonist of Fire Emblem Engage. I mentioned earlier that Alear is definitely a more realistic expectation. I don't really care for Alear as a character. I don't think they bring that much to the table. They're still very similar to Marth. course, you still have the engage mechanic from Fire Emblem Engage you could implement, but Lear will likely be a placeholder, as a new Fire Emblem game with a new protagonist likely will release before SSB6 is released, and I'm hoping that a new game comes out, and I'm hoping that that main protagonist is more unique than Lear. The legacy character being Lyn, definitely a personal pick, although she is arguably the most popular and iconic Fire Emblem character aside from Marth. She was playable in Warriors over other characters not from Shadow Dragon, Awakening, or Fates, the three Fire Emblem games that were prominently featured in Warriors, and I think that is entirely due to her popularity. Lyn stands the test of time as one of the most popular Fire Emblem characters. She has never lost relevance. Definitely a lot of moveset potential, based on her various appearances, both in Blazing Blade, the game she originated from her moveset from Fire Emblem Warriors, as well as taking elements of what she could do in Fire Emblem Engage, where she was included as one of the emblems. Takamaru, I've included as a retro character. He's been a highly requested retro character since at least the SSB4 days. And he was included as an Issus trophy in both SSB4 and Ultimate. We don't have very many retro characters left to pick from the NES Famicom era, so I think Takamaru is pretty likely, and I think he would have been in Ultimate had Ultimate not brought back every single veteran from previous Smash games. I think he would have been in Smash by now, so I think his time is coming. For Pokemon, I technically have a total of 10 Pokemon characters when you consider that the Pokemon Trainer is 3 characters in one. Some people might take issue for the fact that I have 10 Pokemon characters, but only 8 Mario characters and 8 Zelda characters. I kind of understand, but I also think that considering Pokemon is the biggest media franchise in the world, the best-selling media franchise of all time, I don't think it would hurt to have a couple more Pokemon characters than Mario and Zelda, especially when you consider all the Mario spin-offs. As for a new Pokemon character, I have Meowscarada, the Generation 9 rep, the final Grass Starter evolution. Meowscarada will most likely be a placeholder, as will probably be in Gen 10 by the time of SSB6's release. Now, even though Game Freak has announced that they're slowing down the releases of new Pokemon games, new Pokemon generations, so Generation 9 will last a little bit longer. At the time of this recording, the Pokemon Day 2025 Direct has not happened yet, so it's very possible the Gen 10 games get announced if they're in production, that they get announced for this year, but we most likely will be in Generation 10 by the end of 2026. And I don't see SSB6 coming out before then, but I could be wrong, so we'll see. Sukapon I have as like the WTF character for this game, although if we're predicting the WTF character, that kind of defeats the purpose of the WTF character, but that's besides the point. Sukapon's an obscure retro character from a game called Joy Mech Fight. Sukapon was included in his assist trophy in Ultimate, so I think Sukapon could happen, but who knows. But I'd love to see Sukapon, personally. Now we're going to start going over the third-party characters. In my previous video, I mentioned that there were only 2 rules to the inclusion of third-party characters, the first being that they had to originate from a video game, the second rule being they had to appear in at least one game on a Nintendo console. The latter rule is not actually a hard rule. That was misconstrued from comments that Sakurai had made in an email back in 2007 ahead of Brawl's release. What he actually said at the time: manga characters will not join the battle, obviously. While it's true that we've added characters from other companies, it's not going to be anyone and everyone. Smash is a game that's made from everyone's effort. Both companies have to want the character to join the battle. I need them to let me take charge of the character. In order to fit the character into the world of Smash, I need them to allow me some artistic license. Number 3, the character must carry game history with them. Besides that, it might be something like a courtesy to include a character who has the experience of being on a Nintendo platform. That quote right there, that's been misconstrued as a hard rule that they have to be in at least one game on a Nintendo console. That is not actually true. That is more of a guideline than anything. Now, that being said, I don't think we're likely to see a character that has not already appeared on a Nintendo console, just considering that I don't think Sony's really willing to play ball with Nintendo. Microsoft's a much different story because Microsoft, at least it seems Microsoft is moving away from being a first-party developer, making their own consoles. Lately, they've been putting more and more of their IPs on other consoles, so I wouldn't be shocked if Microsoft ends up going third-party with Xbox. But the only real rule is that they have to originate in a video game. The first character that I've included in the base roster, Tails. I think Sonic is due for a second fully fledged newcomer. Tails is very popular, iconic, highly requested. I've also included Shadow as an echo for Sonic, but considering the success of Shadow Generations, as well as the Sonic 3 movie, I could see Shadow being added as a fully fledged newcomer over Tails. And I actually think Shadow's more likely at this point than any other Sonic character. In fact, I believe Shadow is the most popular Sonic character aside from Sonic himself. Next character I have Rayman, popular, iconic, highly requested, had a strong presence on Nintendo during the Wii U days. Still has a strong presence with, well, not so much with Rayman himself, but with the Rabbids, with Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, as well as the sequel, which name escapes me at the moment. I'm surprised we don't have a Ubisoft rep yet, and I was surprised that he was never added to Ultimate. After SSB4, I thought Rayman was the next big third-party character to add, but he got overshadowed by other characters that were more popular, more highly requested. But I still think Rayman would be a great character to add. Crash Bandicoot, popular, iconic, highly requested, especially since the Crash Insane trilogy came to Nintendo Switch, as well as other recent Crash games. He had a strong rivalry with Mario back in the PS1 Nintendo 64 days, although Microsoft does now own Crash since the Activision Blizzard buyout by Microsoft. When you also consider the fact that Microsoft has been putting more and more of their IPs on other platforms that are not Xbox, I don't think it's impossible for Crash to appear in Smash Bros. If anything, I think he's still just as likely as he was before the buyout. But that's it for the base roster. Now to get into the DLC, I have 12 characters that I've included as part of my DLC shortlist. When it comes to DLC, representation doesn't matter as much. I'm looking more toward just overall popularity. The first of which is Geno from Super Mario RPG, who I think now is more relevant than ever thanks to the Super Mario RPG remake on Nintendo Switch. I think he's more likely than ever. Sakurai himself has wanted to add Geno since Brawl, and he just never has, and I think other characters have taken priority, but he was at least added as a Mii costume, and Geno is still among the most popular requests since the lead up to Brawl. The next character, Isaac from Golden Sun, another character who has been popular since the Brawl days, very highly requested, an icon of the Game Boy Advance, and he has been included as both a Mii costume and an assist trophy in Ultimate. In addition to Isaac, I do think half his ults would be of his son Matthew, who was the main protagonist of Golden Sun Dark Dawn. The next character, Doomslayer, iconic, popular, highly requested. He was included as a Mii costume, and Doom has a lot of history with Nintendo, including recent releases on Nintendo Switch, including Doom Eternal, Doom 2016, Bomberman, who has a long history with Nintendo on the Game Boy, on the NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, as recent as Nintendo Switch. He's been included as both a Mii costume and an assist trophy, and I think he would be a great character to add. Lara Croft from Tomb Raider, one of the most iconic female video game characters of all time. Lara is especially relevant thanks to the first 6 Tomb Raider games being remastered on the Nintendo Switch, as well as other platforms. Although I have her in her appearance from Temple of Osiris, her appearance would be based on her unified look that has been teased several times, and I think is the design that appeared in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Shovel Knight, an iconic, popular indie character. He's already been included as an assist trophy. I think it's time to make him a playable character through DLC. Ring Fit Trainee, she's a popular new Nintendo IP. I'm not personally very high on Ring Fit Trainee, but I wanted to include more than one Nintendo character for DLC. The only other character being Isaac and Gino. Yeah, he's a Mario character, but he is owned by Square Enix, so it is good to have a second Nintendo character for DLC. Dante from Devil May Cry, iconic, popular, highly requested. He's already been included as a Mii costume, and the Devil May Cry games have recently been ported to Nintendo Switch, and I think he's a good character to add. Lloyd Irving, another popular, highly requested character. I wouldn't say he's the most notable Tales of character. Yuri Lowell from Tales of Vesperia might be the most popular Tales character, but Lloyd Irving has closer ties with Nintendo. He's already been included as a Mii costume, and Tales of Symphonia was initially a GameCube exclusive before being ported to the PS2 and other platforms. He was also prominently featured in Tales of Symphonia 2 on Nintendo Wii, so for me personally, I'm going for closer ties with the Nintendo, so I've included Lloyd, although Yuri is also another good choice. Monster Hunter is another popular character. Specifically, I've included the Monster Hunter that was in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Monster Hunter is one of Capcom's most popular franchises, and we've already seen the Rathalos as an assist trophy and boss in Ultimate, so might as well have the actual Monster Hunter be a playable character. Nightmare from the Soul Calibur franchise. I wouldn't say he's a super popular. I wouldn't call him a top tier. Soul Calibur is not quite as notable as like Tekken or Street Fighter or Virtua Fighter, but Nightmare is still fairly popular. Easily the most recognizable character from Soul Calibur. He and Siegfried are the two central characters of Soul Calibur's 2 through 4, and half of his alts would be Siegfried. The last DLC character, Master Chief from Halo. I previously talked about how Master Chief is technically eligible thanks to his appearance in Fortnite on Nintendo Switch, but even without Fortnite, he is still eligible. They have to appear in at least one game on a Nintendo console is more of a guideline than anything. But I think his inclusion in Fortnite definitely helps. With the way things have been going with Xbox lately, Microsoft has been releasing more of their IPs on other platforms like the PS5 and Nintendo Switch. There's a lot of speculation that the Halo Master Chief Collection could be coming to PS5 and it could be coming to Nintendo Switch 2. And if it does come to Nintendo Switch 2, I think Game Set and Match Master Chief is coming to Smash Brothers. I'm calling it right here if that happens, and I think he would be the perfect final DLC character. That would top Sora, who people thought would never make it to Smash Brothers because of Disney, but it still happened, so I think the only thing that could top that is Master Chief being the final DLC character. He is the mascot of Microsoft and Xbox, one of Nintendo, which at one point was a competitor to Nintendo, although not so much now. So I think he'd be the perfect last character. Now I'll show it the roster with DLC included. Again, this is being recorded 6 or 7 weeks before the April 2nd Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if the next Smash game indeed gets announced during that Direct, or just to see what games are announced. There could be new games that are announced that make me think, oh, maybe this character should be included. Maybe this character should be considered. So we'll see, but this is my roster as of February of 2025. With the DLC, there's 112 characters total, but let me know what you guys think. This is KH Jedi Masters, signing off.